So, what has our favourite Chinese multi-hyphenate jet setter been up to this week? Find out on the YIBO Weekly. It is so much excitement, so much excitement, I can barely contain myself. And also, on top of that, I have to be quick because I have to finish all of this so that I have a chance to watch today's race. I don't know how much of it I'm going to watch. I'm a bit of a scaredy cat when it comes to the racing. And this is like the 8-hour endurance race. So yeah, I'm not sure how much I'm going to watch, but I have to get finished with this, so I have a choice. Okay, let's get down to it. So much news. Firstly, on Friday last week, YIBO appeared in Paris, as was foretold, at the LOEWE Paris Fashion Week show. It was the 2026 Spring-Summer Women's Wear collection that he arrived for the show. He arrived almost last of the celebrity guests in the live stream that actually that they spent quite a lot of time at the arrival, and then they started going into the room where the show was about to arrive before YIBO even got there, and they quickly switch back and see him come in, and we got like, I don't know, 5 seconds on screen, and then we were into the show. There was quite a lot of footage of him milling around after the show. One thing in particular is he had a little conversation with Liv Tyler, who was looking gorgeous. And, I think they may even have sat together during the show. And yeah, then there was photos released, of him with the designers and him with the LOEWE CEO and with the LOEWE China guy and with, you name it. So then, he left, and, it was a pretty lightning kind of trip to Paris. I've heard some places that he actually practically went straight from the airport to the show. And then he must have gone pretty much straight home again, because he was in Shanghai not that many hours later. So anyway, he was in Paris on Friday. And why don't we have a look at what he was wearing?
好，一博看镜头，来，我们官方镜头。
So, I think it'd be fair to say I have a few mixed feelings about the outfit and in fact about the show in general, which I watched. But like, I'm not a fashion person, and, you know, he looked happy. And so like, who am I to argue with that, I guess? So that was Friday. On, Sunday, he turned up in, Shanghai, as I said, Shanghai. The actual like race meet didn't officially start till the 6th, which is the Monday, but he was in Shanghai on the Sunday with the rest of the team, and they had like a reveal of the, you know, all the livery and everybody in their pink, denim-y pink oid racing suits, and there was a photo of the 4 of them together. So a couple of other things that happened on Sunday. The YIBO and Sergio followed each other on Instagram, so they're now Instagram friends. And after all the stuff at the track, unexpectedly, well, unexpected to me, YIBO and Rio, one of the other drivers, turned up at the tennis that night. So that night, Novak Djokavic, who YIBO is a Lacoste ambassadors with, and had last year they had an event together in China, so they've met. Djokovic was playing at the Shanghai Masters tournament, and YIBO came down to watch. It was an early sort of round match. And he sat like with Rio and a friend, it looked like, of Rio's or a staff member. And there is a number of hilarious moments where the commentator, because like the camera would catch them and the crowd would wow, and the commentators, who are all from the Anglosphere world, well, the ones that I heard, are trying to kind of explain who this person is. And this is foreshadowing for the racing, because we get a little bit more of that there as well. Anyway, that was very funny. And then after the match, YIBO and Djokovic met. It must have been arranged. They kind of met after the match and they had a little conversation, and that was filmed. And YIBO was speaking English in the conversation. He actually seemed to be really quite conversant. Like, he could follow the questions and answer. Like, it wasn't like fluent. Like, it wasn't complicated English that he was using, but they genuinely had a conversation in English. YIBO's clearly, his English has improved significantly in the last little while. So whatever that means, there we have it. And Djokovic signed it looked like it was his match shirt, the shirt that he'd been wearing in the match that he just played, that he won, by the way. So it was, he signed it and they took a photo together, and that was all exciting. And that was Sunday. Monday, which is Mid-Autumn Festival. So the end of the Chinese Golden Week National Day to Mid-Autumn Festival holiday was Sunday. Monday, practice day at the track. So there was no actual racing. It was just free practice. YIBO did okay. Nobody crashed the car. David didn't even crash the car. So that was good news. A couple of other things that happened on Monday. Vogue China, who obviously didn't have the same degree of mixed feelings that I had about the LOEWE outfit, they came out with their best dressed of the weekend. Remember, this is Paris Fashion Week, so there was a lot of competition this week, and YIBO was on the list for one of the best dressed. Vogue, US Vogue, actually on there, not in the publication, but in their website, they had a street style article with photos of different people, not the kind of runway models from the show, but people who were out and about for Paris Fashion Week. And YIBO made that as well. So everybody who knows anything thought that it was a great outfit. It was just me that wasn't so sure about it. So okay, so that happened. And also on Monday, one and only YIBO's street dance movie from 2023 played on CCTV 6 on the prime time in the evening. That was their movie of the day. Now, I can't remember if One and Only's been on CCTV 6 before. It may have been the first time. I may be making this up. I know Born to Fly has played a million times, but One and Only has not played. I think One and Only has not played before, or if it has, it's only done it once before. So that was quite significant. One and Only, the movie, the little engine that could. It just keeps on keeping on, and that was Monday, which brings us up to yesterday. We're still at the track. The 7th was qualifying day at have I actually even said what the name of this thing is? It's the Shanghai 8-hour endurance race. I don't know. Anyway, so there are 20 teams competing in it, and yesterday was qualifying, and they had 4 rounds of qualifying. So because the teams can have up to 4 drivers in the cars. Some of the teams have 4. The team that YIBO's driving for has 4. Some of the teams have 3. I'm not sure if any of them have fewer than that. Anyway, they had 4 rounds of qualifying, and so each driver had to drive a leg, and then based on average time of the top 3, I think is how it worked. they got their order for the starting grid for the actual race today. And there were a couple of, as is always the case, a couple of hairy moments. It was actually it was really sunny. It was a dry track. I don't know if Ibo's actually ever raced on a dry track before. Every time I've seen him, every time I remember seeing him, it's wet or a little bit wet at any rate. But it was completely dry yesterday, and there were still spin outs and, you know, clips, and at least one car having mechanical problems and getting in the way, and, you know, all sorts, the things that happen for motor racing. The UNO racing team finished second out of the 20 teams. And they're really, on average, they were really quite close. Sergio did the second fastest lap time for the day in qualifying. And yeah, they are well and truly in the running, for a podium finish. It all just depends on what happens on the day. YIBO was the slowest of the four. But he's nevertheless still got his, made a personal best lap time. One of his laps in qualifying was the best, time that he has, managed thus far on this track. I think this is the third time he's raced at Shanghai. Anyway, I mentioned earlier that the commentators at the tennis were having a little bit of, you know, a stretch to kind of talk to their audience outside of China about why the crowd was going mad for Wang Yibo. The commentator, the English language commentator, for the qualifying round yesterday, was drawing a whole bunch of comparisons, and one of the things they said was that he was China's Justin Bieber. Another thing that he said was making a parallel with Elvis Presley. And then finally we got to one that YIBO, I hope somebody told him about. I hope he heard, because he made a parallel with Valentino Rossi, who was, of course, YIBO's great motorcycle racing idol, who later moved across to racing cars. So, yes, Valentino Rossi of China for the win. So he's doing well. And they're in with a real chance, but that is what's happening today, not what's happening in this week that I'm talking about. So that brings us up to brand stuff. Okay, brand stuff. Not that much to talk about, quite frankly. It's been a little bit of a quiet week on the brand front. It's been a holiday week in China. So, I think people have been otherwise engaged. So I already mentioned LOEWE. That's the big brand story for the week. Apart from him actually traveling to the show, they produced a whole bunch of materials coming out of the show. And something that I noted, often the international brands, even though he has a global partner, he's a global ambassador, he's not front and center often of their promotions, their worldwide promotions. He's front and center in China, and then he's one of the pack in the worldwide promotion. There were actually a number of LOEWE's Instagram posts coming out of the show that had YIBO first. So they seem to be making an effort to bring him out worldwide. So Anya LOEWE. So apart from LOEWE and the racing, which is of course an Eversu sponsored event, Eversu and Castrol, because if you look on his uniform, his racing suit, there's a Castrol symbol on YIBO, not the others, but on YIBO. Apart from LOEWE, Eversu and Castrol with the racing, a number of brands, a handful of brands brought out photo edits for Mid-Autumn Festival. It actually wasn't often. A lot of brands do. I guess maybe this time people thought there wasn't a lot of point because all the fans were focused on the racing. They might have been right. But anyway, Jeans West brought one out that I really liked, and Seacar had one that wasn't too bad as well. But yeah, a handful of people put out Mid-Autumn Festival things. There was Jeans West, who ran a big promotion last week, had a few new things coming out of the end of that promotion, came out this week as well. But apart from that, really and truly, it's been a quiet week on the brand front. So, looking forwards. Well, obviously, I've already said there's the race today. After that, I honestly don't know. I don't know what's going on. All I'm thinking about at the moment is I hope that the UNO team make it through in one piece. It'll be a bonus if they kind of, make podium, but just all of the boys get home safely. Even the car in one piece would be a bonus. And after that, I just want a good lie down, basically. There's been too much excitement. So I'll put links below to the stuff that I've talked about. I think I'm going to put a bit of footage of YIBO at the tennis because that was really cute. And I hope you all have a wonderful YIBO Wednesday.